Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. In this video we've got something new, we've got something innovative from toolmakers Rupes. What is it? It is the HRL75 Ibrid Mini DA, and as well as it being unlike any other polisher I've seen ergonomically, it's also cordless, and this thing is a little bit of a beast. Let's get stuck in. So welcome back to the channel, guys. Before we get started, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you get notified of all future detailing content. Thank you very much. Now, the Rupes HRL Bigfoot Mini Ibrid. Now the key thing for me is that it's in the Bigfoot range of the Rupes polishers, which are essentially longer throw DAs, so they have a larger footprint than kind of smaller DAs, and Rupes made a name for themselves with the long throw, in particular their full-size LHR15 corded polisher. Now Rupes have an existing mini polisher with a 3-inch plate that is called the LHR75 corded again. So this tool is really competing with Rupes' own LHR75, but the difference is this is cordless with batteries, but you can get a corded adapter for it, which will be coming soon because it's beta at the moment. So it can be cordless or corded. And obviously the main thing about this is it's a completely new design that we've never seen before. And that's a key feature. Is this new ergonomic thing going to really revolutionise polishing and cause a shift in how people are making machines? Or are people going to stick with the existing LHR75 corded version? And that's an interesting thing that I want to cover in this kind of video later on. So let's move on to the specs of this machine, guys, before we actually demo it in use and then round up what I think are the main strengths of the tool. So onto the specifications, guys. The first thing, what's the offset or the orbit or the throw as it's sometimes called? It's 12mm, which is quite a large throw for a small machine, but that's going to help give you more cutting capability. The next thing, it comes with a 3-inch proprietary plate, guys, so you can use this plate when it wears out. It's a soft, flexible plate. It's replaceable and you can get them from Rupes. Next thing that's cool is you can pick your power platform. If you want to use the batteries, you get 2 of them in the kit or with the basic tool option, or you can go and buy, and it's going to be coming soon because this tool is in beta, a corded adapter that just plugs in the back, so you can never be without power. The next thing is the ergonomics. Now every polisher that I've reviewed on the channel, the barrel, the motor, the bit you hold, the main housing is at a right angle to the actual kind of pad, and this bit. This is the first polisher I've seen where it's just designed completely differently. And I think the motor's in here and the battery's obviously down at this end. So they've just gone completely for a totally new design where you're kind of holding it here with one hand and you're almost cradling over the top of the machine, and it's a different way of holding it, and it does feel like you forget more about all of this stuff down here and you're kind of more focused on the bit that's doing the kind of work, which is interesting. It really is interesting, and it's well balanced as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about the ergonomics later on. It's got a pneumatic or fumatic trigger, which is unusual as well. A lot of the triggers are usually on the underbelly on the full-size polishers, and it doesn't have a trigger lock, which is another thing we'll talk about later on. But the design of the pneumatic style trigger is really where you hold either one of your hands. So when you're operating the machine, if you need to adjust your hands, you'll always be able to kind of pin the machine down with one of your kind of thumbs, and you do sometimes need to do that. Rupes will have thought about trigger locks and stuff like that in the design. They haven't not put a trigger lock on it because they've forgotten. I think they're going for a new way of working, and the trigger is incredibly light, so you're not going to get fatigue, but you do have to get used to the fact that you need to keep it pinned down. Okay, so that's another thing. Next up, batteries. In the kit you get 2 lithium 18 volt 2.5 AH batteries, and they have an indicator on the back that you press and it will bring up the power so you know when to go and charge it. So that moves us on to the charge time, guys. 35 minutes, and I tested it and it came up at 35 minutes 34 seconds to do a full charge. So that's quite a rapid charge. What's the specified run time? You should get 35 to 45 continual minutes of run time. But the reality is you're not going to be running the machine constantly for that long. There's going to be breaks in between. So the important thing is you can round robin with only 2 batteries, and in theory you can never run out of power. Okay, so that's a very, very important thing. So fast charge time on the batteries. The body weighs 1.1 kilos, the batteries weigh about 0.3 of a kilo, so the total weight is about 1.3 kilos. So it's lighter than kind of most polishers. Very, very nice and light and solid. The tool operates between 3,000 and 5,500 OPMs, so its top upper limit is up there with full corded versions of this tool. So you have plenty of power at the top end and speed at the top end. At the time I shoot this video, there's 3 packages of buying this tool. The tool only option, which is around about £200 plus VAT typically. Shop around as always to see who's got the best price. Why would you want to buy it without batteries? Well, you might just be wanting to use it with the adapter, which is coming soon, and not the cordless options. That would still be an option, even though it sounds a little bit crazy, because this has just as much kind of capability as the previous LHR75, so you could use it as a corded tool. The second option is where you buy a kit which includes 2 batteries and the charger, and that will cost you around about £330 to £350 roughly plus VAT, so shop around as always. And finally, perhaps if you're looking to just buy a kit that's got everything in it to get you started, you can get the standard kit, and that kit costs between £530 and £580. Again, shop around. In that you get some of the Rupes polishes, the fine polish and the coarse polish. You get some pads, you get a hard case, and you get, of course, the charger, the 2 batteries, the tool, and some microfiber cloths as well. So if you're looking to, if you don't have any polishing gear and you want to buy the tool straight away and be able to use it as Rupes intended, then perhaps the STD kit is the one to go for. Next thing I want to cover is, what do you use mini polishers for? Whenever I review a mini polisher, someone says to me, John, can I buy just this polisher to polish my car? And the answer is, you can, but it's not really the first choice for that. It's a small pad, and the main polishers like the LHR15 have got much bigger 5 or 6 inch pads, and they are much better, can cover more ground quicker. Whenever you've been polishing with a mini and you go back to polishing a flat panel with a big polisher, it just seems like you're working really quick. So I think it would be a little bit inefficient to try and polish like the whole roof on this car with this mini polisher. Where it comes into its own, guys, is tighter, more intricate, curvy areas. For example, even down the side of the car, you can see the size of the pad there is ideal for above this door handle, where a big pad on another machine is going to kind of go into the glass and the rubbers, and it's not going to sit as well onto the panel. So a smaller pad for curves, contours, ideal for doing like the pillars of your car. And the main things where you want to be using a mini polisher is the bumpers on the front and rear of the car as well, because they're full of curves and smaller panels, and trying to polish those out with a bigger polisher, it's okay if you're giving it a quick whiz over or gloss up sometimes, but if you're correcting paintwork or taking out sanding marks, you need to hit all of it. So it's much easier to hit all of it more effectively with a 3-inch mini than a full-size polisher. So it's more of an accompanying tool, guys, if you're polishing cars. The exception to that is motorbike owners that want to polish out just smaller areas on a motorbike. It'd be absolutely ideal for that. But otherwise, you would probably look to pair this up with a larger, long throw free spinning machine, ideally. Next, I want to talk about what the tool's like to use. Before we talk about ergonomics though, the first thing I noticed about this machine when I fired it up and started polishing is that top speed 5,500 OPMs This machine is an absolute animal, and I think what Rupes have done is tried to match that top level capability that the previous LHR75 corded Mini had in a cordless or corded hybrid, if you like, because you can put both in, tool. So it has an absolute ton of power, so much so that I don't think you want to run this at top speed. I was polishing back at speeds 3 to 4. When I was getting up into the sort of 4s and just beyond 4, that seemed to be the sweet spot for what I was trying to do. But if you're trying to do heavy cutting, removing sanding marks, you've got that little bit of extra capability that's going to give you a ton of grunt. And the speed isn't everything as well, guys. It's also the kind of torque that the machine gives you. You can pressure into the paint with this, with the wall pads or the stiffer pads, and really work the cut. So for a little mini machine, the first thing I've noticed is it has a ton of power. The next thing, which is absolutely critical to me, and I touched on it earlier on, I want to use this as a cordless with the batteries, and I don't want downtime, and I don't want more than one charger. So 2 batteries round robin has to be viable for me, and it's totally viable. This thing hadn't run out of power, and I was able to polish my rear bumper and my front bumper, and I was probably doing that for over an hour and a half, and I'm still on the original battery charge, and it only takes 35 minutes to charge. So I would have to be going, you know, polishing continually on top speed to even get close to the point where I'd get downtime. The only caveat with this is these batteries are obviously at their best peak performance when they're new, and batteries, as we know, their performance is going to diminish as you use these charge cycles. So maybe in a few years' time you're going to have to replace batteries, things like that. It's always something to consider with battery operated machines. But the good news is the batteries of these, I think, are about £47 plus VAT, something like that. So they're not that expensive compared to some other tools, which is decent. The next thing is I like the compact nature of the tool, guys. It allows you to get into most of the intricate areas on cars, about 95%. There are going to be a few areas like behind wing mirrors and really recessed grills and stuff like that on some exotic cars where you might still occasionally need a nano tool if you're trying to hit every area. But this will get sort of 95% of those intricate areas, and you can see me demoing it on my BMW M4 and being able to do the front splitter, which is quite a small piece, and being able to get it into the kind of bumper near where the lower grills are and polish around there, which is important. So very roughly, this is going to reach 95% of the parts of the car that other luggers cannot get to. If you're new to machine polishing, it can be really, really daunting about what machine do I use for what scenarios? Do I go rotary? Do I go forced rotation? Do I go free spinning DA? What pad do I use? What polish do I use? Well, one of the things with Rupes, as well as just developing these tools, they make the entire end-to-end system, and it's all colour-coded, so it's very simple. If you're going in to do heavy cutting on a car, you use their coarse blue compound. What pad do you use? Well, you mate it up to a blue pad, whether that's foam, whether that's wool, or whether that's microfiber, and we'll talk more about that later on. So you know your choices of what you've got to make to get started. If you want to just polish your car lightly, maybe take out some fine swirls and gloss it up, but still have that little bit of cut, what do you use? Well, you can take their fine polishing product, put it on a yellow wool pad, a yellow foam pad, or yellow microfiber pad, and away you go. Their microfiber that you wipe the polish off is even colour coded to suit the purpose. So there's no like chance of you starting polishing for the first time and, you know, doing something silly like using a soft finishing pad with a high compound and using like a cone DA pad on the wrong type of polisher or anything like that. You know that if you buy their Bigfoot system, you buy their pads and their abrasives, you're going to be using something that's set up to give you kind of professional results, and you haven't got to think about all the different combinations and all that sort of stuff. Another advantage with the Rupes system overall that I'm just discovering is low processing times, especially on cutting. So cutting is something you want to do as quickly as you can. And you want to minimise the amount of sets you do. And with their coarse compound, it's designed to work very, very rapidly with low processing time. So you often see me polishing away very, very slowly, you know, doing long sets. Well, this isn't designed like that. You go in, you do a short set, you wipe down, you inspect, and you should get the level of defect you need if you're using the right pad and the right compound, the right technique with the tool in one set ideally. Having to do multiple sets of cutting massively increases the time it takes to fully kind of machine polish and finish out a car. So that's another advantage with the system. I think Rupes have done a really good job with this tool. The main thing with it, like I said earlier on, is that cordless tools usually have a limitation on the grunt or the horsepower, so they're not quite as well suited to heavy duty work. This can handle heavy duty work when you team it up with the blue pad range and the coarse compound, so you can actually do proper kind of, you know, professional work. If you're wet sanding down cars and you need to polish out a bumper, you could use this, guys. You wouldn't be reaching for the corded version, which I think is very, very important. So that is the HRL75 Ibrid Mini from Rupes. If you are into polishing, you are definitely gonna want to check this out. In the words of one famous German football manager, Jurgen Klopp, boom.
Holding on to what I knew, but the moment's gone. Where was I?